Well, I was born in Colorado, born and raised here. Was living in Boulder, was in the film program out there. Just really had a love for, the arts. I originally wanted to be in film, was gonna move to LA, do that whole thing. This was like 2016, 2015. I was getting heavily into the club scene here in Denver and really fell in love with the sound. And I just thought to myself, hey, I can do that. I want to throw some parties. I started throwing some small parties at a venue called Boulder House, which is now a restaurant. Started doing a couple parties there under a guy, his company was called Angry Neighbor. He was doing a lot of bass shows and whatnot. But anyway, started throwing parties. Me and him kind of didn't, hit it off as far as vision for what I wanted to do and whatnot. And I just kind of thought to myself, hey, I can do this myself. So got with a group of guys at the time that were DJing and helping me throw parties. Started 128 Productions. Yeah, well, at the time, Brennan, who I think you guys have talked to, Brendan Brierly, really dope promoter and artist here in Denver. I was going to a lot of his parties at the clubs, and around that time I started going to a lot of festivals, and I just would always think to myself, how can we bring that festival kind of feel in production onto a smaller level? Because whenever you would go to a festival and you see something cool production-wise, it was just a little bit more experiential. So we did that. We threw a couple parties that were themed. We had fire dancers. And we really focused on kind of a festival production experience rather than just throwing a club show. And that's how we carved out our niche initially. People really latched onto it, and we built a sense of community with that. 128 really just started, I was thinking of something just a cool, quick, easy name. I fell on 128 because 128 was the house, quote unquote, BPM. And I always thought, that 8 could be really cool. We could turn it sideways and put eyes in it and make it real cool. That didn't end up working out. We tried that a couple times, didn't look good, but it just came to me one day. I remember I called my brother. I said, hey, how does 128 Productions? He goes, that's cool. And so we ran with that. As far as wearing multiple hats, it's, we have a good crew that's a part of 128. We have other partners, some, do production, some do back-end stuff. For my role, a part of it is kind of, finding the talent, finding the venues, producing the show, doing the marketing, just your common promoter or what a promoter would do. Growing up, I always was the person who could find, good music. I call that my superpower. I'm able to find really good artists really early. I've premiered a couple big name artists in, their first bookings ever nationally. Kyle Walker, Abo are a couple. And so that's kind of where I found my niche. Denver's a very competitive market. And so, I kind of had to do that in order to get cool artists. I had to get them early because if not, I was kind of getting outbid by other promoters in the city. So. Finding it, I think I'm just a fan first. I would just go through SoundCloud back when SoundCloud was a thing. I would just find tracks and I would dig and dig and dig. There was an old app called 8 Tracks. It was like an early Spotify. You would create playlists. It couldn't have 2 or more songs by the same artist, so it had to be a different genre. And it was basically creating a vibe, and you could put artwork to it, name it. So really was just a fan of the music and a fan of the artist and a fan of the scene and really the culture and the community that it brings. And it's evolved over the years, and we try to do that at 128 is, keep our community and make everybody feel welcome. Yeah, definitely. It's hard to put my finger on it. I think I can speak for a lot of people when I say when you hear it, you just know it. You can hear something, you're like, dang, that is a good song. There's something there. I still personally look for the quality of music, and I think the industry has changed a little bit, and especially from a buyer's perspective, you're looking for, hey, do they have a following? Are they gonna be able to sell tickets? But me personally, I'm just looking for really good music producers, good artists, artists that have a good vibe around them. Because I think at the end of the day, it's the music that is gonna last over everything. Yeah. Well, yeah, it is. It's pretty, it's pretty oversaturated right now, and there's good and bad things that come from that. And I think it comes down to it's kind of a weird word to say, and it maybe gets overused, but it's creating a vibe. As a young kid going to EDC and just being like, whoa, you know, the way it made you feel, and then the way everybody's talking with each other and picked each other up. We went to Tomorrowland a couple years ago, and that is like on another level of creating a cool community. You know what you're gonna get. Those are the cool parties. I think those are the parties that I want to be a part of and want to throw and also want to participate in. I think it's great that the scene is where it's at, and there's a lot of people trying to do this stuff, and younger collectives coming up and curating their own parties. And I think, you know, how you stay relevant or how you stay, you know, true to yourself is just being unique and staying true to who you are. And I think a lot of who I am comes out in my parties as the promoter. You know, if that can be relayed through my bookings or the production or just the whole vibe, you know, I'm gonna try my best to do that. It's just carving out your own lane, you know, focus on what you can control. Yeah, you know, it's hard, you know, being a part of Regenerate, it's hard not to say that was, you know, the coolest thing that we've ever done. When I started 128, when I talked to the other members, you know, I told them, I said, hey, I'm in this, I want to throw festivals eventually, I want to, you know, scale this. And we got there a little bit quicker than we expected, obviously having good partners. It was a very proud moment and just a really cool to see your work displayed on that level. It's really humbling and it's really cool to say, hey, I was a part of that, helped produce that, and really was one of the leading forces in curating it. And so that is definitely one of the coolest moments. You know, logistically, it's a lot similar to what we've done on the smaller side of things. You'll learn a lot when you're producing an event from the ground up in a raw space, right? Where you have to bring in sound, lights, ticketing, everything. You know, Regenerate is basically the same thing, just on a much larger scale. I would say the first thing is having good partners. We had a great partner in AEG, and them having done large scale events really is just like, you know, they kind of take care of all that stuff. But it was a good learning experience for us as well. Oh shit moment. Oh shit moment. I'll do a good one because the bad ones I might not be able to talk about. But the good ones I will say was, I love Eric Prydz and have for many years. And when we booked him for Regenerate last year, got to speak to him, you know, for just a little bit, you know, just a couple minutes. Having listened to him for, you know, quite a long time and really idolized his music and been really, you know, engulfed in his project, it was just kind of oh shit moment, you know, like, hey, he's right here, this is him, and you gotta you know, meet him and thank him, and that was really cool. That was really special for me. So yeah, that's probably my number one right there. I played college basketball growing up, and I had this coach. He had this line, and he just said, "Never too high, never too low. Act like you've been there before." And so I think, you know, it's the weirdest thing, like that has always stuck with me. You know, you don't, you know, ride the waves, but don't ride them too high, don't ride them too low. You know, try and stay even keel, but, you know, enjoy the wins, learn from the losses, but act like you've been there before. You know, that's kind of the thing. Shout out, coach. Yeah, sometimes like just in sending offers, you know, I'll look back and I'll be like, ooh. Like, I was just really lowballing these guys, man. This is just probably embarrassing. But one time we booked an artist and we announced without getting clearance for the art. And his name was spelled wrong on the art. So that was good. I got a call, and they were overseas at the time. And so he called me, and then he texted me, I called him. He's like, mate, it's like 3 a.m. here. So that was pretty embarrassing. Hard lesson there. But the show turned out pretty good. I would say just, you know, stay true to yourself and, you know, just have an open mind, willingness to learn from people. You'll take some good things from people, you'll take some bad things from people, and you just learn from it. That's what I would say. And I think, like, in this industry, it can be easy, you know, it can be easy to get a big head and go there. So, you know, just staying humble and trying to learn, because you can always learn more. You know, even myself, I've been doing this, you know, for a few more years than you, but I'm still a baby in this industry as well. There's a lot of guys that have been doing this for a long, long time and have been doing it really well and at a high level. So that'd be my advice, and just sticking with it. You know, don't quit. If you really love it, stick with it, things will come. That's all you can ask for.